Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I'm Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and we have a very exciting holiday coming up. And you might be thinking I'm talking about 4th of July, which is a great holiday, but I am talking about Canada Day. So on Monday, July 1st, is Canada Day, and who I have in studio with me today to talk about some festivities you might be able to attend is Stéphane Lessard. He is the Canadian Consulate General in Denver. How are you doing, Stéphane?
Doing great. Thank you, Alex. It's good to be back here.
Yes, we love having you on. We love getting to talk with you. You are one of the guys that we keep in contact with as far as USMCA is concerned, our trade channels, things like that. But I'm excited to talk to you today about wonderful holiday, Canada Day. This is 151 years, or 152,
I think.
152 that you are celebrating. So that is awesome. I know that last night the Consulate General's office had a wonderful celebration, and that was for your business partners, right? So that one wasn't quite open to the public.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had about 200 of our closest friends coming. It was just a blast. It was great. Members of the elected officials, community, and their staff. We had a couple of commissioners from the Colorado government. We had members of the private sector, academic institutions, leaders from all over Colorado, and it was wonderful to celebrate two things. In fact, the holiday of Canada, which is July 1st, but we typically celebrate a little bit before, and also the 15th anniversary of our office. So it's 15 years that the consulate has had a presence here in Colorado. We'll never quite match the Mexican consulates. I think it's 125 years, something to that effect. But we're very pleased and proud to have been here for 15 years and keeping going.
Yes. Well, and better late than never to the party, right?
Yeah.
To set up an office here in Denver.
That's it.
Yes. I want to talk about, actually, I'm going to step back a little bit. And so 15 years, that is an exciting tenure. That's quite a milestone to be in Denver. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that course and the history of it and what the office first looked like versus now. And I know you haven't been there for 15 years.
Right.
But let's talk about that history.
No, sure. Yeah. It's so 15 years ago, the government looked at the whole of the U.S. and discussed about where do we have gaps, perhaps, and where do we have a critical mass of Canadians present, critical mass of business opportunities, investment opportunities, trade, of course, and other interests in respect to advancing Canadian priorities in all key regions of the U.S. And Denver and the U.S. Rocky Mountain West was identified as one of those areas where we needed to shore up our presence. So the government decided to create an office. Initially, the staffing took a bit of time to ramp up to full complement, and there have been fluctuations in the number of folks in our office. But I think the basic formula has always been there, that there are for example, there's about 19 or 20 people right now in the office. There's a small number of us that are Canadian diplomats that are sent by Ottawa to be here for a number of years. But then we benefit from the majority of our staff is locally recruited, engaged staff that are Americans, sometimes dual citizens, but they provide that continuity and the depth of understanding of all the issues and the incredible relationships that they have, and they make that available to the office so that we can advance Canadian interests, whether it's trade or something else. And it's worked out wonderfully. We're super happy, and honored to be here in this beautiful region. Denver's been great, and Denverites have been fantastic.
I would wholeheartedly agree with you. That's interesting that you say. I didn't, for some reason, I guess I thought your entire office was completely Canadian.
No, it's easy to think that. I might have thought that at some point myself before I came, but it is it's a good mix of different vantage points and experiences. And of course, Americans here, they have grown up here often or come from elsewhere, but they bring that unique knowledge of America and the region. So we need that, of course, to be effective.
Well, and I imagine that the Canadians that do work in the office also bring the knowledge to the Americans.
there is, I think, a benefit. We are very familiar with the Canadian political and other realities and cultural and geographic. So it all comes together, I think, in a nice way to make for an effective presence.
I think so. I want to talk to you specifically about the office and who should seek you out, right? So you have a presence here in Denver, and we know that that you've got some partnerships both with local organizations, Colorado Business Roundtable being one of those. I know that we've partnered on events before, and it's been really an exciting partnership, to say the least. But you also partner with local businesses. So tell me about that. Who should seek out the Consulate General's office?
No, that's a great question. I should say that, as a matter of course, we do almost nothing without partners. So I'll tell you what we do a little bit more and illustrate, I think, how people can engage with us, because we want to engage with partners in everything we do. We have a trade and investment section. So any American company that is looking, for example, to invest in Canada, or to look for Canadian partners with whom they can work, possibly to access the Canadian market, but also maybe develop technologies or other type of business arrangement. We have a team that does that, and they also help Canadian companies establish partnerships here and expand market opportunities here in the Rocky Mountain states and Colorado in particular. So on the trade and investment side, anybody wanting to do business with Canada should give us a ring, and the information's on the web, and we can provide that, I'm sure, separately. Then we have a political affairs, public affairs section, and there are many priorities that we, Canada, want to advance here in the region. Often they will be economic in nature, like free trade, tariffs, USMCA, the NAFTA 2.0 agreement, or other energy issues, defense and security, of course, with NORAD being so close, and Canada and the US being such profound historic defense partners in North America with NORAD, but also around the world. Environmental, cultural issues. So that team will handle these things, and we're always interested in advancing the Canadian viewpoint, or raising awareness of Canada's views on these matters of defense and environment and energy and so on. So anybody who would like to know more about the Canadian perception or view on some of these priorities within Canada and around the world is welcome to contact us. We're always interested in knowing in this region who's doing what, and we will reach out, but we're always happy to get people connecting with us. Then we have a consular section, and these are people who support Canadians who may have a need for assistance. It could be a small thing like I left my passport in my other home and I need to travel tonight, or it could be other things like law enforcement issues may come up and things like that. So any Canadian in the region, and that's really Colorado, Montana, Utah, Kansas, and Wyoming, should hopefully know that we are available to them to assist them in some time of difficulty. And there's also some Canadian values we try to represent in some situations. Current priorities, for example, are women and girls' rights and opportunities, and gender parity and equity, and things of that nature, or diversity and inclusion. And we hold events always with partners on these things. So anybody who's interested in these kinds of things are welcome to contact us, and we always are game for a good discussion.
Wonderful. Yeah, you guys have always had some great events, and I always enjoy seeing you and your staff out at some of these things. And so knowing exactly who should contact you, I think is a great message to get out there. But that being said, we had a little discussion off air talking about Canada Day and the festivities. So last night, again, that was more for your partners that you've got here and some of the local legislators, things like that. But of course, we want our Canadian Canadian citizens that live here to be able to celebrate as well. So what you did, instead of having a celebration for your citizens, is you partnered up with the Canada-Colorado Association, and they are doing an event on June 30th. You can register online for that. Look up the CCA, that is the Canada-Colorado Association, for that super event that is happening June 30th. Yeah, so I want to talk about some priorities that you've got at the office right now. We know that there's an election coming up in October for you guys, but right now, what's on the plate, and what are we seeing strides in? Are we struggling anywhere? Is there anyone that can help you get these wheels turning?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think the priorities for us going forward will likely be very much a continuation of what we've been doing. You know, trade policy is always important. We are excited that the impediments to moving forward with ratification of the USMCA because of the steel and aluminum tariffs, the removal of those removed an important impediment, and so we're intent on ratifying the agreement, and we plan to follow pretty much the same pace as our American partners on this, work in tandem. So that's one priority that will be supporting our mission, but of course all missions across the U.S., and advocating for the removal of remaining impediments to trade. There are still some tariffs on a few things, including softwood lumber, so these remain things of concern to Canada, and we'll keep thinking about those things and looking for good discussions on those subjects. Advancing and raising awareness about the truly special Canada-U.S. defense and security partnership. It's an important thing to not take for granted, and I think most people know about NORAD, especially in these parts, the Colorado Springs, but not many people know about the Canadian role in NORAD. And most people may not know that the commander of NORAD has always been an American general, but that the deputy commander has always been a Canadian three-star general. And there are dozens of service men and women who are active at Colorado Springs, at Peterson, and elsewhere also in the region, really standing shoulder to shoulder in integrated blended teams with American officers to really monitor and defend the common homeland that we have, which is that North America that we share. So, we always want to raise awareness and celebrate that incredible partnership where we trust each other with our sovereign airspace. And many people may not know that on 9/11, when an American general, the commander, was not available on duty, it was a Canadian general who took control of the U.S. airspace and directed flights to safety with the team at NORAD, Americans and Canadians. So that's not such common knowledge, and we take opportunities to raise awareness about this.
Fantastic. Yeah, I had no idea that was the case, actually.
So that's an example of how we are shoulder to shoulder in an integrated way defending our common homeland. But our police forces, our border officials collaborate seamlessly across the borders for pre-clearance of passengers. We've just announced with the U.S. administration in the last few days the expansion of this pre-clearance that will extend to more U.S. and Canadian airports where people can pass immigration and customs before they actually take the plane to their destination in either Canada or the US, and that will be extended to cargo very soon. So there's so much collaboration cross-border happening in law enforcement and immigration and other things. There's so much to celebrate. So we're going to be looking again with partners at raising awareness of the great things happening between our countries in defense and in culture and in trade and in energy and in the environmental protection activities that we have, and we have specific projects mapped out for the year with partners always, and looking to advance these interests, looking to work with people who actually believe in the things that we do. And it's really not difficult. We have a lot of priorities in common with many key players here. Absolutely.
100%. And we, and by we, I mean the Colorado Business Roundtable, I know that we appreciate your partnership on a lot of the things that we've done together. I want to take a moment to ask you how businesses might be able to partner with you, you've done a great job painting a picture of how much we actually work together and how well we work together, Colorado and Canada, right? That's you are our largest trading partner, hands down. But we also have a lot of the same principles that we want to focus on, as you mentioned, the environmental impacts, right? We want to make sure trade stays great. Defense, of course, is one of those big areas. But there are other ways, I'm sure, that other organizations can partner with you. So talk a little bit about that process.
Sure. Maybe the starting point would be to acknowledge what you just said, but add a bit of data points maybe to that. Last year, in 2017, trade between Canada and Colorado was $5.1 billion. In 2000, a capital B, where this is significant. And in 2018, it was 5.3. So $200 million worth of additional business, two-way trade in goods, and I don't think that includes services. So it's just goods between Canada and Colorado. So that's really significant, and the trajectory is going upwards, which is fantastic. And in fact, as you say, we are Colorado's #1 export market. In fact, the business that Colorado does with Canada is more than what it does with China, Japan, and Germany combined. Right? So we talk about China, and it's in the news all the time, or Japan, of course, such a big economy, Germany, but the exports from Colorado to Canada are larger than those three countries combined.
Yeah.
So that's a tribute to our great businessmen and women who do their thing, and most of our trade is in metals and mining, machinery, energy, of course. There's a fair amount of imports of Canadian crude into Colorado. Agriculture is a big sector, of course. So our businesses, provided governments let them do what they do best, that's what they do. They look for distributors in the other country. They look for export markets and buyers, partners, technology, or whatever. So that's a testament to their prowess that our trade keeps going up. What we try to do is promote that. So we go out. We have a team doing this. And proactively or reactively, because people reach out to us and they say, well, I'd like to do business in Canada. I'd like to find a distributor or set up a presence or whatever. So we encourage that. And sometimes it's one company specifically contacting us, or sometimes we get a lead from somebody and we will contact a company. But we very much appreciate the partnership we have with organizations, associations that can help us in creating more opportunities for our companies and for Canada, but also grow the trade between Colorado companies and Canada. And I think I just want to put in a good word for the Colorado Business Roundtable specifically, because I've been here 3 years, and since I arrived, and I know it predates my arrival by a long shot, but our relationship with the Business Roundtable leadership and everybody has been fantastic, and that's been to create specific economic opportunities, trade or investment, but the partnership has extended to issues of common concern, for example, support for free trade or advocacy to remove tariffs, for example, between our countries. And so we've done that with the Business Roundtable. It's been an essential partner of ours. We do have relationships like this with major chambers, South Metro, North Metro, Denver Metro, and other sector-specific associations in aerospace or agriculture, the Farm Bureau. So we have relationships with major key players in those sectors or those regions. And that's how, in fact, we stay abreast of things. We seek advice from our partners. Sometimes we provide a Canadian perspective on issues. And it's all about relationships. You cannot do this by email. You can't do it by, you got to show up, you got to make those calls. And our relationships are fundamental, and our partnerships are so valued by us. And last night we celebrated many of those, and we're always happy to have a conversation.
Awesome. That is wonderful to hear. And in the description below, you will find a link that can tell you exactly how to partner with the Consulate General's office. So we will have that available for you. I have a few minutes here, Stéphane, and one of my favorite things that I like to ask people is, if you weren't in the career that you're in now, what would you be doing?
Well, what I'd like to do, there are many things that I think would interest me. As a sideline, I play guitar and I write music, so maybe some association with that world of culture and music, I think would be a good thing. But I'm going to do that anyway. I do that anyway, right? In terms of a career, I'm a trained lawyer, right? So I used to practice law in Montreal, and I left for joining the public service because early on in my life, I heard John F. Kennedy talk about ask not what your country can do for you. And we were living in Florida at the time, and those words really struck me, like I really did. And I find it very noble to serve my fellow Canadians every day. And the public service has been a great career for me. But if it wasn't this exact job, I might be elsewhere in the public service, as I have worked in different ministries, but probably I would be, if not, I would be a lawyer practicing law, probably international law, in Canada or elsewhere.
Awesome. I always appreciate getting that little background, and I feel like it threw you off a little bit. You weren't expecting that question, but
no.
I think it's a great way to get to know my guests that are in here. In these last couple minutes here, Stéphane, I just want to ask any other last thoughts as far as what a good partnership looks like, or anything that you want to say about the office that people may not know.
Mm-hmm. Our office is very accessible. People should be feel very welcome to reach out to us. And God knows we're out there too. So people may encounter us in all sorts of situations in different parts of Colorado or beyond. And so look for us, look for the logo. We like to partner on events, and whether it's myself or my colleagues at the office, there's always somebody traveling to a part of the state or elsewhere. So we welcome people reaching out to us and with their ideas and so on. I would say in respect to partnerships, it's a given to us, I think, in Canada and this office, that partnerships must be win-win, right? There's always, it makes sense to partner if both parties or more benefit. And there's, we can be creative at finding ways to structure collaborations so that all parties win. And it's not difficult to find good opportunities in any of the sectors I've mentioned because our interests are so aligned. We're so integrated between Canada and the U.S. and the U.S. Rocky Mountain region in Colorado. We're so integrated in our energy infrastructure, our defense collaboration, in all of these other areas, supply chains between us. It's not that difficult to find ways to have a win-win partnership, and we welcome that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stéphane. It's always a pleasure to have you in studio.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's always a pleasure for me.
Awesome. I love hearing that. Again, find more information in the description below. Please click on that link. You can find this show and more at cobrt.com/radio-podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here, and partner with the Canadian Consulate General's office here in Colorado. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.